Imagine walking through a forest at dusk, a faint chill in the air, and an eerie quiet that wraps around you like a thick fog. You hear whispers from behind the trees, but when you turn, there's nothing there. This is the Forbidden Forest, where no one dares to venture, because once you do, you never come back. What really happens inside? Let's find out. Just don't say we didn't warn you. Many years ago, nestled between two villages, lay a forest that the locals called the Forbidden Forest. It was a place steeped in mystery and fear. There were no paths through it, and any who had ventured in had never returned. Whispers among the villagers spoke of eerie shadows, creatures that roamed the trees, and voices that called to you, leading you deeper into its heart. There were stories of children who had disappeared, their screams fading into the night. Old men and women, too, would often mutter to themselves about strange happenings they had witnessed during their youth. But no one knew for sure what lay within. The forest was a place avoided by all, a dark and treacherous land that had claimed the lives of many over the centuries. But that all changed when a group of adventurous young people decided to challenge the legends. Among them was Liam, a fearless young man who had always been skeptical of the supernatural. He'd grown up hearing the stories of the forest, but he believed they were just that, stories. He convinced his friends to go with him. "We'll prove it's all a lie," he said with a grin, holding up a map of the forest. "So, are we going to find some monsters or ghosts?" asked Emma, a friend with a sharp sense of humor, but even she couldn't hide her unease. "No," Liam replied. "We're just going to find the truth." The group consisted of 5 friends: Liam, Emma, Ben, Sarah, and Tom, all brimming with youthful curiosity and naivety. They packed their bags, made sure to have enough food and water, and set off for the forest, one crisp autumn morning. As they approached the forest's edge, the atmosphere shifted. The trees were unnaturally still, and the air grew heavier. A sense of foreboding hung in the air, but the group pressed on. Liam led the way, with the others following closely behind, trying to ignore the growing dread. At first, the forest was just like any other. Tall, towering trees, their branches swaying ever so slightly in the wind. The ground beneath their feet was soft, covered in leaves that crunched with every step. But as they ventured deeper, things started to feel wrong. The shadows seemed to stretch further, bending in unnatural ways. The wind picked up, but not in the way it should. It was as if the forest itself was breathing, alive, and watching. "Do you guys feel that?" Ben asked, his voice tense. Sarah nodded nervously. "Yeah, it's like the air is thick. I don't like it." Liam smirked. "It's just your imagination. Come on, we're almost there." The deeper they went, the more strange things happened. Strange, whispering voices seemed to come from every direction. Faint, unintelligible murmurs that felt like they were inside their heads. Liam laughed it off, but his friends were starting to get nervous. Emma looked back, and for a brief moment, she swore she saw something move between the trees. A flash of movement, too quick to catch. "Did anyone see that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Stop freaking out," Liam said, trying to brush it off, but even his confident demeanor was starting to crack. "Let's keep moving." The trees now seemed to crowd in on them, their branches twisting and contorting, blocking out the sunlight. It was as if the forest didn't want them there. Suddenly, Tom froze. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The others went silent, straining their ears. For a moment, there was only the soft rustling of leaves, and then a distant high-pitched scream echoed through the trees, so chilling it sent shivers down their spines. Liam's face went pale. That wasn't one of us, was it? He stammered. No, Emma said, her voice shaking. That came from deep within the forest. Should we go back? Sarah asked, fear evident in her eyes. Liam hesitated. He had always been the brave one, the one who mocked superstition. But now, even he felt a knot in his stomach. Still, he tried to remain strong. We've come this far. Let's keep going. They pressed on, but the forest was growing darker with each step. The sounds of the forest seemed to grow louder and more frantic, the whispers turning into frantic mutterings, the branches swaying in rhythm with something unseen. And then they saw it, the clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive, ancient tree. Its bark was blackened and twisted, the roots sprawling like veins into the earth. Beneath it, a strange symbol was carved into the ground, an intricate pattern that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. This is it, Liam said, his voice low. This is where it all started. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. A low growl echoed from the shadows, and the air grew thick with the scent of something unnatural. Out of the corner of his eye, Liam saw movement. He turned to see a figure emerging from the trees. It was tall and thin, draped in dark robes that seemed to ripple like smoke. Its face was obscured, but its eyes gleamed like burning embers. "Who are you?" Liam demanded, his voice shaking now. The figure didn't respond. It simply pointed to the symbol on the ground. "Run," it whispered in a voice that sounded like the wind itself. Before anyone could react, the ground split open, and a monstrous creature, its body a twisted mass of roots and shadows, burst forth. The figure vanished into the forest, and the creature lunged at them, its gaping maw ready to devour them whole. The group scrambled in all directions, but the forest seemed to come alive, trapping them within its twisted branches and roots. They ran, but no matter which way they turned, they found themselves back in the clearing. The creature was getting closer, its growls reverberating in the air. "Help us!" Ben screamed, but there was no answer. In that moment, Liam realized the truth. The Forbidden Forest was not just a place. It was a living, breathing entity, and it had claimed them. That was the last anyone heard from Liam and his friends. They disappeared without a trace, their names whispered in fearful tones by the villagers. And as for the Forbidden Forest, it remains untouched and undisturbed, waiting for its next victims. Before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share it with your friends. Who knows, maybe the Forbidden Forest is just waiting for more explorers.